The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. War in heaven. If you've never been, starting June 1st, it will begin a new installment of the Hebrew and Bible Academy. The full 12 weeks will be concentrating on the beginning and fall of Babylon, history, the understanding of the religious aspect of Babylon, as well as what? The theme from Babylon, Rome to America. In the Academy, this is what you can look forward to. New lessons. The secret war of Edom against Israelites. But one thing we've never delved into was bringing forth the history, showing all the contentions and war Edom has waged against Israelites even until our present time. The desolation of abomination, how to calculate time according to God, and I can't wait for this lesson, Armageddon. The final war in heaven. If you've never been in the Academy, you want to be in this one. June 1st, we're in open enrollment right now. Go to historytimes.org to enroll. Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.
All you see is fame and glory. Following me, ducking behind trees, inquiring to harm me. I may not be right in your eyes. I've only come to realize I am your life. Now it's time I draw the line and tell my side against what's been publicized. No, I'm not your villain. feeling, no. I'm not feeling.
All right, shalom, family, and welcome to our Friday check-in. I am Elder Lawya, filling in for Elder Rawchaa. And before I do anything, let me first and foremost make sure that the sound and the video are functioning properly. And with your confirmation, I'll get right into it. All right, shalom, shalom. All right. Let me make sure we're good with the sound and the video. And from there, we'll jump right into it. All right. We have one confirmation, two confirmations that all is clear. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right. Before we get into anything, you all see the topic of discussion. But before we get into that, I just want to make a quick announcement or two about our up and coming Hebrew and Bible Academy, which you don't want to miss. We're going to make a quick announcement concerning that and some of the information that you can expect in this academy starting June 1st. Real quick, let's see some of the information that you can expect, some of the lessons and the information we're going to be bringing forth in this up and coming academy. All right. Again, we have a Hebrew and Bible Academy, which starts June 1st, 2025. All right. Let me just adjust this so you all can see it. One moment. All right. So the Hebrew and Bible Academy starts Sunday, June 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So what can you expect as far as some of the lessons in this up and coming academy? First and foremost, I would be amiss to not first mention the academy theme. And I believe that the academy theme plays into what we're going to be discussing this evening. But again, before we get into that, let's first announce the theme for this academy, which is Babylon, Rome to America. Now, some of you may be wondering, where does this concept come from, or this idea or this theme come from? What inspired this theme? Well, many of you who have been around for maybe more than a decade, when this church first was established, one of those lessons that was taught in the early days was titled From Babylon, Rome to America. And in that lesson, we broke down not only the similarities between ancient Babylon, ancient Rome, and modern day America, but we also showed you things such as, the religious foundation of ancient Babylon, which served as the religious foundation for modern day Babylon, amongst other things. There was a lot of information that came out in that breakdown, which, again, one of those early lessons that was pretty groundbreaking, but also we saw a lot of response. A lot of brothers and sisters, pretty much giving us, feedback on that lesson as an example of, the lessons that really brought a lot of things home. So what we decided to do is to take that lesson and pretty much use it as the theme for this entire academy. So every lesson we teach is going to be from that foundation or from that basis, from Babylon, Rome to America. So now some of the lessons you can expect in this academy are the history of the Tower of Babel, the secret war of Edom against the Israelites, the desolation of abomination, which is prophesied and spoken of by the prophet Daniel, but also Yeshua Mashiach, or who the world calls Jesus Christ, also makes mention of the desolation of abomination. Well, we're going to go into that and see how this relates to us in our current time. We also have how to calculate time according to the Bible, a nest among the stars, Satan's space program. We have the final battle of Armageddon, and last but not least, covenant under fire. Will your marriage stand? So those will be some of the new lessons that will be brought forward in this up and coming academy. Not to mention, we have the news segment with Elder Rawchaa and Elder Rawchaa, which brings us up-to-date news from a biblical perspective, a prophetic perspective. And also we have the Hebrew, which is taught by myself. And in this academy, the theme for this academy for the Hebrew will be Hebrew history or Hebrew archaeology and geography. So in this academy, and I just pretty much, I'm still putting the finishing touches on the first lesson, the Hebrew alphabet, which will be taught like you have never seen before. I know some of you may be wondering, how is that possible, right? You've seen one alphabet lesson, you've seen them all. Well, that won't be the case for this academy. Again, for the Hebrew segment, we're going to be incorporating both archaeology as well as geography. So that's going to be the theme for the Hebrew portion of the academy. So again, you don't want to miss this academy, June 1st, 2025. If you're interested in becoming a part of this academy, please send an email to, or better yet, go to historytime.org. Again, historytime.org, where all the information you need to enroll will be present. All right? So, without further ado, let's jump into today's topic of discussion. Is Babylon guilty of a RICO? And as I mentioned earlier, this leans into the theme for the up-and-coming academy, from Babylon, Rome, to America. Well, with today's discussion, which we're largely going to have on the other side, usually we give a little bit of a taste, and I'm going to give just a little taste of what we're going to be discussing on the Patreon side, but a lot of the videos and the discussion and the information that we're going to be bringing forward may be considered a little too controversial for YouTube. So that we don't spoil or cause any rift with our YouTube channel, we're going to largely keep the discussion on the other side, but I will give you some of the points that we will be touching on Patreon. Right? Is Babylon guilty of a RICO? And really, this lesson is inspired, obviously, by everything that we've been seeing this past few weeks. Really, we can go back a year or so when some of these allegations were coming out concerning none other than P. Diddy, right? And I hate that every time we mention his name or any other name that may have been involved in some level of infamy or, a name that has been soiled through media, obviously we have to mention that we don't agree with anything that they were accused of or have been involved in, right? I hate that we have to keep mentioning that, but we must put that out there because people really have a hard time separating what we're saying versus what someone is being accused of in the media. Like automatically, when we have these types of discussions, not really in defense of, but proving some level of hypocrisy on the part of the media and really the system in general. When we have these conversations, automatically, people start to believe that we are in agreement with the activity that a particular individual is being accused of. And that's not the case. Okay? What we are seeking to do is to point out the hypocrisy, right? Not only the hypocrisy of the media, right? Who at any given time will take an individual and push them into the stratosphere to the point where they can do absolutely no wrong, right? And then soon afterwards, when they're finished or when that person steps out of bounds, automatically the once media darling, right? When you think of Michael Jackson, when you think of Whitney Houston, when you think of certain individuals, at one point, these were media darlings. They could do no wrong. Nothing negative could be said about these individuals. That's until they start to buck up against the system. They start to play out of bounds. They start questioning people who they have no business questioning, right? And that's when all of a sudden you start to hear negative media, negative reports, right, about these individuals. And we believe that it's no different with P. Diddy. Not to say that he is, he doesn't have his issues, doesn't have his problems, but, you know, let's be honest. And I think that song that was played at the beginning, I couldn't have chose a better song to play, because as I'm listening to the song and I'm hearing everything that's being put forward, you know, Elder Rawchaa put together, you know, a excellent writer, if I may say. He wrote an excellent song concerning how we always become, at the end of the day, we always become the face of villainy. We always become the face of crime, infamy, right? But the question is, where do we learn this from? Where does some of the activity that we hear coming out in this this particular lawsuit, who taught us this vile behavior? Where do we learn this from? Where do we pick this up from? Okay? And are there things happening behind closed doors on a high level? Because remember, the Bible says what? We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and what? Against spiritual wickedness in high places. So are there things going on behind closed doors in high places that make what we're hearing in this trial seem like child's play? Are there things going on behind closed doors in high places that make P. Diddy seem like a choir boy? And if so, when will those who are engaging in these activities, when are they going to be brought to trial? When are they going to be forced to, no pun intended, face the music and have all of their improprieties that they committed behind closed doors come out into the open for the whole world to see, and for the whole world to laugh and make jokes about and, you know, point fingers? When is that going to come? Right? So what will we be discussing on the other side? What are some of the bullet points we're going to be jumping into? Right? What are some of the bullet points we're going to be touching on? First and foremost, we're going to be examining the crimes. Right? What are the accusations? Right? What are some of the things that this man is being accused of? Not that we are defending, and that leads to the second point, Do we agree with anything that he's being accused of? We're going to address that extensively, right? Then we're going to deal with the aspect of hypocrisy. Is there any hypocrisy going on? I don't care whether it's in high places or your everyday Joe Smo, right? Again, when someone is brought to trial and their improprieties and their sins are brought out for the world to see, it's easy for everyone to laugh and to joke and to point these fingers and make these claims that this person is the most vile, wicked, perverse person on the face of the earth, not realizing that some of the things that we're hearing may be going on behind closed doors, not just in high places, but with the everyday Joe Smo on his level. When I say on his level, obviously, when you have a man that's rich, when you have a man that's wealthy, he is able to kind of embellish the activity. He's able to do things on a level that the everyday Joe Smo can't really attain because the everyday Joe Smo don't have the money to pay people to come in and do certain things on that level. But nonetheless, on the everyday Joe Smo level, are there everyday people engaging in activities that everyone is clutching their pearls about and grabbing their chest about? But in reality, they're entertaining some of these activities behind closed doors, right? Whether physically or electronically, right? They have a whole industry, which we're going to say, the adult, what they call the adult film industry, where people watch these things and engage in these things as entertainment. So if you're so repulsed by what you're hearing, if the whole world is so repulsed by what they're hearing, how can we have an industry that the whole industry is based on some of the stuff we're hearing, but it's flourishing? Like, who's engaging this type of entertainment so that it's flourishing to this degree? But at the same time, everyone is repulsed, everyone is disgusted, PU and I can't, just the sound of it. I can't fathom it. Oh, really? Okay. Oh, really? Right? And that's, again, it's not to make any excuses for it, but we got to deal with this from the standpoint of, in fact, we're going to address it from the biblical perspective. Okay. We're going to see what Christ has to say about this, where people themselves are engaging in some of these activities, but because he's out in the open, it's easy for everybody to kind of point and, make fun of what's going on with him. But then we're also going to deal with this from the systematic level. Okay? Babylon. Are there some improprieties that Babylon has committed that she should be ashamed of? Right? Well, we're going to see. We're also going to address, is Babylon guilty of the same crimes? We're going to discuss what those crimes are on the other side that he's being accused of. We want to see if Babylon is guilty of these same exact crimes. And if so, is Babylon guilty of a RICO or a conspiracy? And if so, who are the co-conspirators? We're going to address that. Last but not least, we're going to address, when will Babylon have her day in court? When will Babylon be brought to justice for the crimes that she has committed? Some of which are the same exact crimes that this man is being accused of. And I'm going to go on record. I mean, we've mentioned this a multitude of times. This ain't nothing, this ain't nothing new or anything of that nature, right? But with all this coming out, now I haven't followed this thing closely. You know, you're hearing the rumblings. Everyone is commenting on this whole case, but what we're waiting for, what we're all waiting for, is proof of a one-man RICO. We've heard abuse, right? Drug abuse, physical, domestic abuse. Okay. We're hearing, perversion, sexual perversions. But we're still waiting for the big kaboom. Okay? The big, we gotcha. The big, here's the proof that this man was engaged in a criminal enterprise. Right? For the 25, 30 years that his record label has been around, you know, he created this record label solely to commit crime. Okay? Or that he started, he started a business, or got into the business as a means to commit crime, to deal with illegal activity. That's what we're all still waiting for. And until this point, we've yet to hear any of those things. Right? So just to let everyone know that we're on and to give everyone time to filter in, I'll answer maybe one or two questions on this side before we jump over. We are going to jump over and we're going to deal with, our discussion. We got scriptures, we got video clips, we got documentation. So all of that will be shown on the other side, but to give everybody time to file in, we're going to, answer a question or two to see if anyone is, or just to give everyone time to filter in. Yeah, I believe, the company, they're saying it's in his mother's name. Okay. Which again, a lot of these things we're hearing, they make it seem, they try to make it this big thing, not realizing that, again, where did they learn these tactics from? Putting things in other people's names, creating businesses and trust and things of that nature to try to hide money and, tax purposes. Where did they learn these things from? Right? You'll realize when you start going through people's money and how things are structured and where money is tied up at and, things they've set up as a means to kind of hide money and things of that nature, you'll realize that everybody of means, practices these things or does these things on some level. Okay? Yeah, Swiss accounts. I mean, these are things that they're taught on how to, hide and shelter money, how to avoid paying a big tax bill, right? We just heard maybe a year or two ago where, it was mentioned that Trump paid little to no taxes, right? So how was he able to do that? Well, I would assume that it's some of the ways that, we're hearing that Diddy got things in different people's names and they got these different umbrella companies, just various things they do to avoid paying taxes. That's what rich people do. They try to avoid having to, have a situation where they're losing large sums of money. All right. So I assume we have no questions at this point. So we're going to transition to the other side. I'm chomping at the bit. I want to jump into a lot of what we have to discuss because, yes, we do have a lot to discuss. Someone said now they're claiming Snoop Dogg is in trouble. I haven't heard that. I don't know what circulation that's coming from, but this is what you can expect. You can expect this to continue to happen because these precedents are being set. We said the same thing, and I know that when you hear the name, it's so repulsive. You got to clutch your pearls and grab your chest because this man is so disgusting, and we just hate the thought of this man. But we told everyone when it came to the whole R. Kelly thing and how they were coming at him and the charges, the way they were charging him. And if you remember, he was also charged with a RICO. We told everybody that if you simply remove the emotions, take your emotions out of it, take what you think you know about the case out of it. What did everyone believe they knew about the case? Everyone believed that this case was about underage women or underage girls. When that really wasn't the bulk or the purpose of the case. Okay? But when we saw it happening and when we saw it playing out, we said, listen, once this precedent is set, you best believe that you're going to continue to see one domino after the next falling down, men being accused of things which at one point in the industry was, you could say, industry standard. This is just how they dealt in Hollywood. And for the life of me, I can't find this documentary. There was a documentary out there on YouTube. I'm not sure if they took it from YouTube. I'm not sure if there's any place else I can find it. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this documentary. Right? It was by E. Hollywood. Right? If y'all remember back in the day before, you had the whole YouTube social media thing where you can get, documentaries or information about your favorite celebrities or biographies and things of that nature. Before social media brought that and gave us access to that information, back in the day, you had a cable station called I believe it was called E Hollywood, right? And it was on that station where you got, certain biographies of your entertainers. It was, I believe, VH1 had Behind the Music, where they gave documentaries on music icons. And it was one particular documentary that they did specifically on Hollywood. And the premise of the documentary was showing how Hollywood catered to its stars, its celebrities. And they were going from one business to the next, right? One place to the next, showing these different institutions or businesses, right, that were created specifically to cater to Hollywood celebrities, right? These included institutions that provided alcohol, institutions that provided drugs, institutions that provided sexual favors for the Hollywood stars. And one thing that kept being echoed, or that they kept echoing throughout the course of this documentary, was the fact that there is little to nothing that in Hollywood celebrity can ask for that we cannot provide. No matter how excessive the request is, no matter how weird the request may be, and they kept bringing up these points that, they may have certain weird proclivities that, they may have, and it's our job to make sure that we meet their request. Speaking about these institutions, clubs, and things of that nature, right? So when I saw that, and I saw it at the same time they were dealing with the whole R. Kelly thing, I'm like, hold up. You mean to tell me that you all have these institutions which are specifically created to cater to the weird and excessive kinks and needs of the Hollywood stars. But yet at the same time, you have someone on trial who is engaging in all of their weird, excessive proclivities. What's wrong with this picture? Right? How can you have an institution or a system in place that is built specifically to cater to all of these sinful needs, all of these sinful desires? And then now when the person goes into it full board, now you're going to turn it into a crime. Right? And not just turning it into a crime, but turning it into a crime based on who you want to convict with a crime. Because the reality is, they're all involved in these weird, excessive, strange proclivities. They're all involved in these things. If they weren't, these institutions wouldn't be in place to cater to their needs. Right? But getting back to the point, I have a hard time finding this documentary. It is very key. It is very important in regards to today's discussion, but I've had to put together some other things as a means of bringing home this point. Nonetheless, okay, someone says True Hollywood Stories has been going since 1997. Yes, right? It's been around for a minute, right? But again, we're going to get into it. I'm trying my best to bring forth what we're going to be discussing without putting carts before the horses or, putting too much out there on this side. But this is what we'll do. We'll transition to the other side and we'll have an open discussion of today's topic, which is Babylon guilty of a RICO? Again, for anyone who is interested in the up and coming academy, please send an email to academycheck, not Lawya. Please go to historytimes.org to get all the information you need to enroll. Again, the academy starts June 1st, and you don't want to miss it. Again, we have a bevy of new lessons that we're bringing forward. Also, when it comes to the news is never the same. And for the Hebrew, we're going to be adding not just dealing with Hebrew, but also adding geography and archaeology. So with that, I say bless you all and shalom. And for those who are on Patreon, I'll see you on the other side. Shalom.
The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.